Hello, and welcome to Back Through the Lens, where two film school friends talk about movies through the haze of nostalgia, the good, the bad, and the ones that aren't quite how we remember them. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me is my co-host, Joe. Today's movie is Jurassic Park.
To a lot of moviegoers, summertime is golden. It's where action sequences, car chases, and fiery balls of explosions engulf the screen. It is the time to root for the mass vigilante or cape hero to save us from the giant robots and mammoth movie monsters. So sit back, shovel popcorn in your mouth while hours of eye candy flicker in front of you as you enjoy this week's summer blockbuster. I think of summer movies, I specifically think of summer blockbusters, something I want to see on the big screen, in a theater with surround sound, just kind of all-encompassing. And I just wanted to talk about Jurassic Park, directed by Steven Spielberg, release date June 11th, 1993, so still a summer movie, Rachel. Rated PG-13 and is based off the novel Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, which I found out that he was getting offers for screenplays before this book was even published.
The rights were purchased for $2 million. The book was published in 1990, but pre-production on Jurassic Park the movie began in 1989. Steven Spielberg was actually developing a movie version of ER, which is also a Michael Crichton book, which I had no idea about any of this.
I didn't know it was a Crichton book, and I didn't know it was going to be a movie. And it kind of makes me want to... I've never seen the show, and it kind of makes me want to go back and maybe check out at least the pilot, because I'm very curious now.
Yeah, so this is what turned into the television show ER, like that launched George Clooney's career. I also want to go back and check it out because I saw a few episodes when I was really young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I appreciated whatever it is that makes it like such a classic show. Basically, when Spielberg went back to working on ER after this, and I think after Schindler's List and a couple other projects, he ended up turning it into a TV series or turning that adaptation into a series. I just wanted to point out the other studios and directors who were interested because I thought this was kind of funny. Warner Brothers wanted the rights and they were looking to have Tim Burton direct.
I can't imagine. I mean, I can actually, and that's sorry, I lost my thought of what a Tim Burton Jurassic Park looks like.
I know. I was really surprised when I read this, especially after our discussion on, Tim Burton being pushed out of the Batman franchise and
Yes,
and how Warner Brothers was sort of treating him.
It would definitely star Johnny Depp. But anyway.
I actually read that Johnny Depp tested for Malcolm.
That's like who I was thinking of. It's perfect. Can we go back and make this?
No. Speaking of all of this, Jim Carrey was the other strongly considered actor for Malcolm. They said he gave a really interesting audition. It was like, it would have been a different direction than how Jeff Goldblum took the character. But let's just say if you listen to the Batman Forever episode, you understand why I'm okay that he did not get this role.
Yeah, I love me some Jim Carrey, but I'd rather see Tim Burton and Johnny Depp for that role. But in another universe,
I would rather just see Jeff Goldblum.
That's fair.
Okay, Columbia Pictures, they were going to have Richard Donner direct. He did The Goonies, Lethal Weapon, and Scrooge. 20th Century Fox, they would have had Joe Dante direct. He did Rock and Roll High School, Police Squad, and Gremlins. I saw an interview with Joe Dante where someone asked him, like, what would your version of Jurassic Park been? And all he really said was like he would have loved to have had a crack at it because obviously it sounded like a cool story, but I feel like everyone they've ever talked to has been like, no, they got the right guy to do it. Spielberg was the right guy to do it.
Yes.
But yeah, also like how could you compare to Steven Spielberg anyway? So I understand, all these people being like, no, it's fine. He was the right choice.
Yeah.
That brings me to what James Cameron's version would have been, because he was apparently extremely interested. Everything I read, he missed securing the rights by like an hour or something. Like it was a very brief period.
I definitely read that too. I thought how interesting that would be if he's like, I wouldn't say he slept on it, but he just made a bid like very close, but too late. Like
Hmm.
an hour is not a very long time to miss the mark. At least when I would imagine when the studios are buying out stuff,
Right.
and it's good director and all the movies from the 80s I loved, like Terminator and stuff like that. But again, in another universe, what would this look like?
Well, I will tell you.
Oh, do
Uh,
tell.
James Cameron would have cast Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dr. Grant.
Yes, yes. You all right up there?
Could you imagine? Because, okay, obviously some of this involves Grant's character kind of turning into a bit of an action hero, right? Because he's like saving the kids, he's running from things, whatever.
Hmm.
But there is not a universe where I could have taken Arnold Schwarzenegger seriously for the paleontologist part of that character.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine him just like sleeveless. Somehow, for some reason, he has a giant gun. He's shooting the T Rex. Like, he's yelling at Timmy when he's on the fence, like, get down now, come on, do it. And, it's perfect. But, only if they still get Tim Burton, he does like set design. So it's like creepy and weird and dark.
I'm just imagining Jurassic Park being designed like one of the holiday towns in The Nightmare Before Christmas if it had been his movie. I'm really curious why they would even think of Tim Burton for something that. uh, I mean, maybe the earlier scripts, it didn't seem like such an action movie, but I just can't imagine him doing this movie. Tim Burton, that is.
Right.
But it's hard to say because we only have the version that, from Steven Spielberg. But
Hmm.
the rest of James Cameron's casting, Bill Paxton as Malcolm,
Of course.
which, yeah, would have been fine. I think just, I don't know if Malcolm would have stood out as much if it hadn't been Jeff Goldblum. Charlton Heston as Hammond.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the quote that James Cameron gave about Jurassic Park. When I saw the film, I realized that I was not the right person to make the film. He was, referring to Spielberg, because he made a dinosaur movie for kids, and mine would have been aliens with dinosaurs, and that wouldn't have been fair. Dinosaurs are for 8-year-olds. We can all enjoy it too, but kids get dinosaurs, and they should not have been excluded for that. His sensibility was right for that film. I'd have gone further, nastier, much nastier. I mean, I believe that.
Yeah.
But also, I think maybe this is my personal bias because I tend to think of James Cameron as just having an enormous ego. I can't help feeling like this was a little bit of a backhanded compliment. Like, Spielberg was the right one because he made a kids' movie.
It does kind of feel that way. Now, I'm reading it here, and so I would like to hear it, but it does kind of give that vibe because it does come across as a little bit like I make movie for grown-ups.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, I could see James Cameron directing a movie like this. I could.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so for our actual casting, Steven Spielberg apparently considered Richard Dreyfuss and Harrison Ford for Grant. Harrison Ford actually was offered the role and turned it down, but I could not find out why.
Okay.
Sam Neill was only cast like 3 to 4 weeks before filming began, and he even said like he had no idea what he was doing. He was finishing up one movie and then just suddenly had to fly to Hawaii to begin filming Jurassic Park, and I don't think he had even read the script.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I think he was just like, it's Steven Spielberg and dinosaurs. Like, I just shouldn't say no to this, I think.
Yeah,
um,
I wouldn't. So,
yeah. Juliette Binoche was offered the role of Ellie. She turned it down to make the Three Colors trilogy, which, if you are unfamiliar, they're blue, white, and red, directed by Krzysztof Kieslowski. The colors are to match the French Republic's flag, but every
ah,
one is a slightly connected individual story. They are very good, but very much not Jurassic Park.
fair enough.
Yep. When Laura Dern was offered the role, or at least asked to audition, she was apparently finishing up the movie Wild at Heart, which is with Nicolas Cage. I've never heard of this movie, but she was unsure of it, and Nicolas Cage convinced her to do the movie because he said, "You don't say no to a dinosaur movie."
That man's brilliant.
Hmm. Steven Spielberg told her, I know that you're doing your independent films, but I need you to be chased by dinosaurs, in awe of dinosaurs, and have the adventure of a lifetime. Will you do this with me? How could you say no to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's so polite.
I know, that too. Ariana Richards, who's Lex, the young girl, I just really liked her casting story. They basically were having all the actresses scream as loud as they could. And supposedly, when Steven Spielberg was watching her audition later, they taped all these auditions. Hers was the only audition that woke up his wife. She came running down the hallway to see if the kids were okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so supposedly that's how she got her role. Tim, Joseph Mazzello is his real name. I'm going to quote him because this is a good story. Steven had me screen test with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman for Hook. I was just too young for the role. And because of that, Steven came up to me and said, "Don't worry about it, Joey. I'm going to get you in a movie this summer." Not only a nice promise to get, but to have it be one of the biggest box office smashes of all time. That's a pretty good trade.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to put in my 2 cents is Hook is also a very awesome movie.
Yes, fair.
Probably not maybe on the same level Jurassic Park, arguably, but in my heart of hearts, it is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned it before. Hook is always the movie we ended up watching in school when they wheel out the TV. I don't know
Hmm.
why. I
Yeah, it's weird.
no rhyme or reason, but it has a very special place in my heart as like the school movie.
Oh, jeez.
But I enjoy it
Okay.
genuinely too, but it's just funny because every time I think of Hook, I think of like watching a movie at school and how excited you would be when you'd see the TV set up in the room.
Yeah,
But yeah, talk about failing upward for this kid. Like, man,
that's awesome.
don't worry, we'll find something for you. Biggest movie of all time.
Right. Thanks, Mr. Steven. So, David Coep, I'm saying that right, Coep,
We'll go with that.
was brought in to fix the screenplay. Apparently, Michael Crichton got to take an initial pass at it, which is a pretty good deal. I mean, he just got his book bought for what you said, 2 million,
Yeah.
and then he gets to write the first pass of the screenplay. That's it's a good lawyer right there. But David had said that adapting that book was seriously tough sledding. A bunch of scientists talking at each other for 2 hours is really hard to make human, funny, informative, and fun. Not to mention scary.
I think I saw something that was like only 10 or 20% of the book was actually adapted into the screenplay, which makes sense because I think it's a very long book. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't read it.
It's sitting on my bookshelf, and I still have yet to read it.
Is it a very long book?
I have a edition that is Jurassic Park and Lost World, so it looks really big, but it is 2 books.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
But it both like there's clearly 2 big halves. So yes, I would
Yeah,
think
yeah.
Jurassic Park itself is not small.
Yeah, from what I understand, you're right that Michael Crichton gets like a first pass at the screenplay, and like obviously he gets credited for it as well. But then I read something that Spielberg, as part of his contract, he gets to bring in his own screenwriter to work with Michael Crichton to like finesse it into more of a movie script,
Which
which
is fair, yeah.
yeah, which I think all around makes sense, right? Because it's
Yeah.
Michael Crichton's movie or Michael Crichton's story to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
but at least he's not quite so like at least he can let go a little bit and realize he doesn't usually write screenplays.
Right, yes. Let the good story writers write the stories and the movie makers make the movies, and everyone's
Hmm.
happy and gets millions of dollars.
I'm pretty sure Michael Crichton got like a portion of the profit too, so I think it worked out well for
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah. I got a quote here from Spielberg. He's talking about the main characters of the film. So he says, "Here's what's scary. We are creating the title characters of the film. These were the stars of the picture, these dinosaurs. And if that didn't work out, nothing about Jurassic Park could have worked. That was so daunting because I was using Universal's money to basically make an experimental dinosaur picture." That's awesome. Like, here, kid, go play.
Yeah, and like such a good point that I didn't even think of. Like, if the dinosaurs looked bad, this whole movie would have tanked.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking of that as we're talking about the casting, getting the casting right, and like we're laughing about like, oh, what if this had been a Tim Burton movie? But if the dinosaurs looked bad, this wouldn't have stood the test of time at all.
No. And especially in 1993, I think it looked so good. But then rewatching it for this and like seeing some of the sequels and not just like the sequel trilogy, like the Jurassic Worlds, but like the direct sequels, Jurassic Park, the first one
Mhm.
still to me looks the best.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I've only seen one of the sequels. I can't even remember now, but yeah, watching it back, like I would not say this looks dated
Mm-mm.
really at all. I mean, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, right? Like, because you know they're not real, whatever. But I mean, it's perfectly believable to me. So
Yes, yeah.
I
What
don't
do you mean?
know.
What do you mean they're not real?
What do you mean you're not real? There was something that maybe I had put this at the end of the notes, but I also didn't realize that CGI like wasn't in wide use at this time.
Right.
Like I did not realize how pioneering Jurassic Park was in a technological sense.
They got the close-ups of the dinosaurs, and those are the animatronics, right? But then some of the bigger shots, like the full-blown T-Rex body or other things like that, they were going between. We call it CGI now, but they had two different old programs, and for life of me, can't remember the second name. But they were doing like a mocap thing, and then an old school CGI thing, and they were between the two, and they thought it was going to look so silly and dumb. When he saw some of the test screening, he was like, "Yep, this is what we're going to go with. It's going to be huge." And I think he was right.
Yeah. I did, speaking of such things, there's an article that's like the oral history of Jurassic Park. I found a quote by this man, Phil Tippett, who was credited as dinosaur supervisor.
What?
Yeah. Stephen asked me how I felt after seeing the footage, and I said, I think I'm extinct. He said, that's a great line. I'm putting that in the movie.
Nice.
They also talked to the casting director, and she was quoted as saying that by the time they cast Laura Dern as Ellie, there wasn't much money left to pay her, like a regular salary that she might have been used to, because they used all the money on the dinosaurs, which I don't really have trouble believing. I'm just curious, as someone who at the time was doing more like indie stuff, did you feel slighted, Laura Dern, that you signed on to like this big blockbuster, or, for all intents and purposes, it was going to be a big blockbuster?
Right.
And did you maybe not get paid as much as you thought you would? But also, Sam Neill was apparently the last one cast. So, like, where was, did they just have no money at that point? Like, I'm just so
Right.
curious.
Sam Neill did us a favor.
Right. I don't know. I guess I would have assumed that, yes, you don't know that it's going to be this huge hit beforehand, and effects are expensive and whatnot. But it's like Universal Studios,
Hmm.
Steven Spielberg, like, and I assume, that they went all out and grabbed that screenplay because they knew this was going to be something big if they could at least get the dinosaurs to look right. I'm
Right.
just surprised that there are these quotes about, like, we didn't have much money to pay the actors.
Yeah.
Because it's also not like the adult actors were newcomers either.
No. No. I mean,
Yeah,
besides maybe Goldblum, when I saw it at 8 years old, they were all new to me.
of course. Yeah.
Don't know how I would already have known Jeff Goldblum, but whatever. I feel like he looked familiar for some reason. But yeah, I wasn't watching the indie movies Laura Dern was in, or the other two leads are more, at least at the time, like did more British films and whatnot, which I
Hmm.
probably wasn't watching at 8 years old.
Yeah.
But if you haven't read the book like I have, or for some reason not seen the movie, let me break it down for you. Jurassic Park is about an old rich white man who decides he wants to make the ultimate attraction, a dino zoo. So he decides to play God because being old, rich, and white isn't good enough, and through the magic of science brings dinosaurs back. What happens when we introduce one of history's greatest predators into modern age? Spoiler, a lot of bad things.
That's great.
I try. So before I say the first time I saw this movie, I'm going to go back and tell you the first time I did not see this movie. So if that's confusing, you'll understand. When this movie came out, like I said, it was June '93. The hype for this movie was real. Obviously, they bought it before the book was on shelves. And when you're an 8 year old, most 8 year olds, a lot of 8 year old boys, most of the 8 year olds at that time period were all excited for Jurassic Park.
Hmm.
Kids always loved dinosaurs. I mean, I remember when the NBA expanded and the Toronto Raptors were a thing, and they did a whole marketing thing and people who didn't like sports were wearing Raptors gear, and Crayola had a marker set. They changed like the basic APAC, but all the colors were NBA teams to include the Raptors purple. Point is, dinosaurs are everywhere in 1993.
Yeah.
And if you didn't see this movie over summer break, you probably would have nothing to talk about in the first day of the next grade.
Hmm.
And so I was really amped for this movie. And I often stayed over my grandma's house. We'd either stay in pairs, my sister and I would stay over there, or she'd take one at a time to probably spend more time with one of us, or more honestly, probably because like sometimes two of us are hard to handle. I get that. This particular time, I'm staying over, and we are going to go see a movie. I saw a lot of movies with my grandmother, whether in theaters or at her house, and I want to see Jurassic Park. There's nothing else I want to see. Next day, we're getting ready to go, eating breakfast. She's like, "Did you have a bad dream last night?" I usually don't remember my dreams. I said, "No." "Are you sure? I heard like you like kicking the blankets and screaming." I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about, Grandma. No idea." So she thinks I'm afraid to see a movie I haven't seen yet. I was like, "That's ridiculous. It's going to be great. It's PG-13." Keep in mind, I'm 8, so I guess maybe my grandma was worried about like maybe taking her grandson to see a movie that's
Hmm.
PG-13. I don't know. We're driving there, and this is before you could just Fandango on your phone. You had a call before you left the house. This is 93 when we didn't all have cell phones for the movie times. So she's convincing me on the drive there that I might be scared to see this movie. So now, like, of course, the little bit of pride an 8-year-old has is like, I'm not going to be scared, Grandma. We're going to watch this damn movie. It's like, I don't know. What if you have nightmares? Then your parents are going to be mad. And she's like, you know what? Wow, she was kind of gaslighting me. Fuck. So we get to the theater, and I'm now convinced maybe this is a bad idea. And so the next viewing is Super Mario Brothers, the movie, with John Leguizamo, and we saw that because I'm also a big Mario fan. It wasn't that good. It was dare I say bad, and
Wasn't that good?
still hold a grudge clearly to this day. Was still mad I didn't get to see it in theaters on opening weekend. Now I recently, well, the rewatch for this movie, up until then, or up until now, I should say, that I had thought maybe I saw it in a rental. But as I'm watching it this time, I'm convinced I've seen certain things on the big screen, like you with Clueless. And I'm like, well, it had to be trailers for another movie. We see movies all the time, and we associate some of those scenes with being on the big screen. And then as I'm watching it this time, I all of a sudden have a memory of like laying on a blanket in grass and watching it next to my sister and dad, like and my mom, like on the back of the car or whatever. So I think my parents took us to a drive-in, and forgot to text them before this recording. I will have to confirm or deny this, but maybe I actually got my childhood dream to see Jurassic Park in theater that summer. It's blurred and blocked out by not seeing it and seeing Mario instead.
The other story is too
The other
strong.
story, the better story.
It looms too large in your mind. So, I don't have like super funny story about the first time I saw Jurassic Park, but you are correct that it was like the movie like everyone wanted to see. I did not see it in theaters, but I know that we were like so excited when it was finally able to rent at like Hollywood Video or whatever we had at the time. Thinking about this, it really like put me back into that. Like, that was such a thing, like going to the video store on a Friday to pick out a few things for the weekend, like Friday night and the weekend. And it was also such a thing when a big movie like that came out and was finally available to rent, almost like when it was released in theaters.
Oh yeah.
So I know that we, as a family, like rented this, as soon as it came out. I still remember like watching this in our living room. Like, I remember the way the room was set up and everything because my parents had two recliners. And I specifically remember my brother and I hiding behind one of the recliners
That's awesome.
when I'm pretty sure it was during the T-Rex scene. Yeah, because I would have been 8 and my brother would have been like 4.
Kids love dinosaurs.
Kids love dinosaurs. I know that is why we rented it
I mean,
partially.
Your kid went through a dinosaur phase, yes?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
That's gonna come up in our discussion.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't want to jump the gun.
No, no, it's okay. There are just certain things that you're like, I know this because I've learned a bunch about dinosaurs against my will.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of my son, I had rewatched this a few years ago with him when he went through his dinosaur phase. We waited on this one because I feel like he loved dinosaurs, but he loved like cute dinosaurs, not scary dinosaurs, if that makes sense. Um
I was the exact opposite.
oh, I'm sure most little boys are. We have discussed this. My son is a very sensitive soul.
Well, to be
Um
fair though, like it's because of this movie though
oh,
that I
well,
loved like the
okay.
T-Rex or the Raptors, and
There you go. Yeah, my son was always more of like a dinosaur train kind of into that kind of a dinosaur, not a Jurassic Park. But we did watch this with him. Maybe he was 6, but I remember thinking he was gonna get scared, and really he was not. I don't like, he enjoyed it, but I don't know if he was really into it. I can tell you that I apparently was not watching it too closely because there was still a lot in this rewatch for this episode that I didn't remember.
okay.
So, go figure.
I would say maybe my last couple times intentionally watching Jurassic Park like start to finish, because if it's on TV, it's going on or whatever.
Mhm.
But 2023 30th anniversary,
Okay.
and they had the Cleveland Orchestra play along with it at Blossom.
Mhm.
So that was really cool. And we'll talk about it again, I'm sure, but the music is iconic.
Mhm.
It's weird when you think about Jurassic Park, you think about those like two big themes and how awesome they are, but you don't realize how much music isn't played during the movie until you're watching a orchestra play it live, and they're just sitting in the dark for most of the time, and then they
Mhm.
put lights on low and they start playing and they disappear. I'm like, oh wow, this movie is just dinosaurs yelling at each other. Um, and I think before that was the 20th anniversary when they re-released it in IMAX. At the time, this is like my redemption story, the 20th anniversary IMAX. I saw it in theaters finally.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which maybe I've seen it before. So the very beginning of this movie, anytime it's on, anytime I'm watching it, it like just gets me amped up. Like I know we're about to be on this ride. It's spooky, it's scary, it's mysterious. It puts me still in that spot of being 8, 9 years old. Just it almost feels like a different movie, just the way it starts. Like it's
Mhm.
dark.
Yeah.
It feels like they're stealing something, not transporting the raptors. I like that when the worker guy is getting eaten alive by what we find out later is a raptor,
Yep.
you get the eye contact between just the close up of this dinosaur's eye and then Muldoon just like staring at each other. And
Mhm.
that obviously is a little foreshadowing of what's to come with Muldoon.
Yeah, I had forgotten about this opening because when I think about, I don't know, the opening, so to speak, of Jurassic Park, like what I remembered was when we're at the dig site and we're
Mm,
introduced to Grant and Ellie. I was kind of like shocked at how scary this was. Like I said, I didn't really remember it, but yeah, it's terrifying, especially when that poor man is being like thrown around and you can tell, he's going like up and down, but you don't know why. I'm surprised my son didn't struggle with this scene, honestly. I'm just surprised he didn't want to immediately turn the movie off because like this would have scared me as a kid.
yeah.
Yeah, how did you deal with it as a little kid? Were you scared at all?
Despite what Grandma thought, I was not. It's more. I mean, it's dinosaurs. You see the trailer. You see the T-Rex and raptors. There's humans also. Like something bad's gonna happen. And the very next scene, I remember not giving any shits about because it's like boring lawyer talk. And it's not until later as an adult you appreciate just how much plot is given in this quick sequence where the lawyer comes to the dig site where they finally find an amber with a mosquito in it. And now my
Mhm.
9-year-old brain is like, oh, here's what I came to see. This lawyer talk glaze over. There's two
Oh,
guys
yeah.
talking about,
Mhm.
but what they're talking about is the guy that got attacked and his family, they want a settlement, and it really sets up the whole reason that the scientist and the lawyer go to the island. Didn't care about
Mhm.
any of that. Just show me more dinosaurs.
Yeah, definitely. I remember being a kid and being bored by those types of scenes. This scene where they explain how this all came to be, I remember as a kid feeling like that went on forever, and I did not care.
You had already mentioned the dig site with Grant and Ellie, and it's hard not to mention that. That scene is awesome. I love how they torture that kid. I think I
Mhm.
liked it as a kid, even because he's a little brat. Like, if I was a kid and I got invited to go see scientists dig up fossils, like, not go to a museum and see them on display, like, we're seeing this happen. Like, they're gonna uncover something. You just being a little snot nosed brat. I'm glad Dr. Grant scared the piss out of him.
I don't know, I thought that scene was, like, so ridiculous though, because like, what kid in that type of situation is just gonna, like, make fun of dinosaurs? Like, kids love dinosaurs.
That's what I mean. He
It's
deserved
just so
it.
weird. We just needed a reason for Dr. Grant to do that whole thing with the claw,
Well, they had to show Dr. Grant be mean towards kids because he doesn't like kids.
right?
It also sets up how the T Rex and Raptors hunt
Mhm.
because all that comes back later.
Yes.
So it's a fun way to do that. You know, it
Sure.
also starts the conversation, which I don't think was really happening too much back then, but that dinosaurs are birds, not alligators, reptiles.
Yes. That is one thing I specifically remember having to stop and explain to my son when we watch this together because he gets very upset when things are wrong. Like pterodactyls are technically not dinosaurs, okay? If we are ever reading a book or whatever and it says like dinosaurs and there's a bunch of dinosaurs and then a pterodactyl, he's like, "Well, this isn't right. That's not a dinosaur, it's a flying reptile." So, we had to pause and explain to him that in like 1993 or whatever, they I guess it was like a newer theory that they evolved into birds and not reptiles. That is like my one very big like difference watching this as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I have learned so much about dinosaurs. Rewatching this with him, I had forgotten that like that wasn't always agreed upon science because like in every book I've ever read with him about dinosaurs, it's always like they're related to birds.
Mm-hmm.
And it just struck me as funny that like I don't know, this is not that old of a movie, but our whole understanding of dinosaurs apparently was different in our childhood versus like my kids' childhood.
Yeah, we had 9 planets back then too.
I just like feel so old now in a way I was not expecting to this morning. The part where when it comes out that they have a T-Rex and Grant is like, "You have a T-Rex?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I suddenly realized I was on an island with the T-Rex and the raptors, I feel like I should have been told that ahead of time so I could have made an informed decision.
Yeah.
Informed
Yeah.
consent. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I liked how Dr. Grant started to feel faint because I also don't really know what else I would do if I saw a dinosaur in real life in front of me, especially like something that huge.
Right.
I would probably feel faint as well. But I found a quote from Sam Neill. He said, Stephen said, "Look over there and imagine there's a whole plane of grazing dinosaurs of all different stripes and persuasions. How would you feel about that?" And I said, "Oh shit, I don't know, Stephen. I think I'd faint. That's why my knees go out in the shot."
That's awesome.
Yeah. He did elaborate a little bit that he was trying to think of if he was a real paleontologist who had, studied these his whole adult life, spent all this time digging them up and all that, to actually see them in real life. What would that do to you? You'd probably faint.
The whole purpose of these scientists to go is to basically thumbs up, thumbs down. Is this a good idea? Which
Mhm.
kind of doesn't already matter because it exists. But I
Yeah, that's a
guess,
really good point.
well, I guess the signing off would be, can Heyman make it a park? Like, invite civilians. to this island of death and torture.
Well, see, now I'm thinking, like, imagine if this had gone, like, well. Like, imagine if this all went as Heyman is assuming it would go. So if they say yes, it's like, "Okay, cool, open your business, whatever." But if they said no, I mean, what? This guy's just gonna be like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'll get rid of all these dinosaurs." Like, no.
And yeah, what are you gonna put him down?
Right, I know. That's what I was thinking.
Much like Clueless, for me, this movie has a lot of quotes that I will still use today, albeit randomly or contextually. And the one that is used over and over and over again: spare no expense. Sometimes I use it ironically when I definitely did spare expense. I find it funnier to use in those situations, in my opinion. But we get to the point where we get introduced to Nedry, and his role in this movie is to steal dino DNA, embryos, whatever. Because I guess I didn't get this as a kid, but he's all mad about not getting a raise, I guess, and he
Yeah.
tells him like not to get cheap on him, and that's what Heyman's problem was. And I didn't realize as a kid like this is just like a
Oh.
job dispute. Like, hey, can you give me a raise? And he's like, no, we can't. We bought too many dinosaurs, and so he's stealing from his company because of that.
Yeah, I had missed that that was the reason he was upset with them. Like, I obviously I understood he was like some sort of disgruntled employee because why
Mm-hmm.
else would he be? Well, actually, I guess I thought he was just doing this for money. So,
Well, he is, but that's all I thought as a kid. Like he's just
mhm.
maybe just he's a bad guy, so he's going to steal from the dinosaur creating grandpa and sell it on the black market. But he's doing that because he's disgruntled, and I never picked up on that as a kid.
Mm, I see.
It's probably before I had a job, so that would make sense.
Right. What are raises?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we already talked about. We have to talk about it again. The music, John Mother effing Williams. Again, we had him in Star Wars, and to me, this might be is equal. When I think of like iconic scores for movies, this is up there
Mhm.
for me. I don't know how you feel, but it's
Yeah,
just
definitely. Even without this being really like a big part of my childhood, I can't say I really rewatched it a lot between the first time I saw it and then like showing it to my kid. So a very
hmm
long time. I still recognize the music. Like it's still just one of those inescapable scores, but for a good reason. I kind of feel like Jeff Goldblum's role in this has been so memeified that I can't really like watch it like in a vacuum anymore. Like I just see the memes of him like laying there with his like shirt open.
yeah.
I kept trying to understand like why he was there and his job, but he does have that scene where he like kind of demonstrates it for Ellie, so that did make
hmm
sense. But it made me think of this is going to sound weird, but Crazy Rich Asians, the lead in that, the main woman, she teaches game theory, and it just made me feel the
Hmm.
same way as like you have this weird movie job that I don't understand.
Right.
And I understand like these are real things, game theory, chaos theory. The
Yeah.
paleontologist I get.
Right. Yeah. No. That's why I'm here for that guy.
Mhm.
The other one, I'm like, I don't know what, something about butterfly wings and Ashton Kutcher or something. I don't know.
Right. I did notice on this rewatch, we call Dr. Grant Dr. Grant for the most part, but we call Ellie Ellie, like her first name. Is she a
Mm-hmm.
doctor too?
Yeah. In my notes, I have her as Dr. Sattler,
Okay, yeah.
but she's like gets referred to that as once, and then everyone calls her Ellie. So
I love the part where they first see the dinosaurs. Like they first realize they are on this island with like real dinosaurs. They're in the Jeep, and
hmm
I think Dr. Grant is like standing up. He's watching Brachiosaurus, I believe it is.
I
Is that
believe so.
correct? Okay. And
Confirm with your son later, but
yeah, I
I think
can
so.
confirm with my son later. Ellie's just like looking at a map and he reaches down and like turns her head for her. And
hmm
I just love that, like, he can't even speak. He's so astonished, but he's like, you have to see this. You have to see what I am seeing. And then the way she reacts, just like her jaw dropping, like standing up while taking off her sunglasses so she could like supposedly see better. It made me think of us discussing the big reaction scenes with like Drew Barrymore and Meg Ryan from last season. Also, because I assume maybe I'm wrong, but I assume in Jurassic Park they were maybe reacting to nothing.
The effects in this movie were a mix between animatronics and CGI, which I think they were supposed to do like a mocap, slow cap thing or whatever. And then I think CGI was still new, and Spielberg, I might be getting them crisscrossed, but Spielberg was against it, and then he saw what it would look like. He's like, nope, I want more of that. So yeah, those dinosaurs were added in later. So yeah, they were definitely reacting to nothing.
Hmm.
And the fact that, I mean, it felt believable to me. The lawyer, ironically enough, he's there to put a kibosh on everything. And he's like, we're going to make a lot of money, like, you asshole. And then, of course, Jeff Goldblum, you did it. You goddamn son of a bitch, you did it. Again, all these great lines.
Yeah. The lawyer's line there, I just couldn't help thinking of like a stereotypical like I guess I want to say like Muppet movie villain. Like it's
Oh, yeah.
always like an oil tycoon who wants a lot of money. Like
Right.
they had to make sure that lawyer was super slimy and lawyery.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's funny, though, because earlier scenes, he's there to maybe not he himself personally, but like he has to make sure everything's okay because they have this settlement. A man had been, well, murdered, I guess might be the right word here, but
Well,
was
he was
eaten.
killed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on job.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's probably a contingency and a contract he had to sign when dealing with dinosaurs. I don't
Hmm.
know. Too much
Yeah.
red tape for this movie. But to get us through some of that red tape, I do love the scene when they finally get to like on premise and they explain how they made dinosaurs. And I feel like they take what I'm assuming is a lot of exposition in the book into like a 10-minute scene. And they do like that
Yes.
theme park ride,
Hmm.
the little movie, Dino, DNA, and all that good
Hmm.
stuff. It's very smart. Like, I probably would have bored me like earlier scenes as a kid with the lawyer and everything, but they made it this like theme park, which I was familiar with going to Universal Studios. So I had that connection there. They had animation. And so everything that did to me as a kid, it made sense because that's what they would be doing if it was real life, like to
Hmm.
get your audience, give them all the information they can, understand the why and the how, but do it in a way that is like 5 minutes and you're out and entertaining.
Yeah. We talk a lot about how we like movies to show and not tell, but this is one of those things that you have to explain how this came about. There's no other way other than through some sort of dialogue. But yeah, this was just like such a smart way to still make it fun without us just like listening to his character just like say all of this. Like there was something to watch, there was something to get, engaged in. Our screenwriter, co-op, our screenwriter that is not Michael Crichton, he said, I remember Steven and I were wrestling with that very issue about the DNA. And one of us said, what are we supposed to do? Have a little animated character called Mr. DNA? And the other one said, yes, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Perfect.
Happy accidents. I mean, obviously, as a kid, this all went over my head. I
Mm-hmm.
probably did not care because I just wanted to see some dinosaurs.
100%.
Yeah. But watching this back as an adult, it is such a clever way to explain some stuff that probably would have been like really difficult to follow because in addition to the Mr. DNA they have some like visuals about the cloning, how they extracted the DNA and how the process worked in the movie. And again, like show don't tell, right? There are times like this that you cannot get around a lot of dialogue, but having interesting visuals to go along with it, like this is how you need to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Very smart.
Meanwhile, Malcolm is like, well, how come they're not breeding in real life? How come this is not happening? Blah, 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 blah. And it's just done in a way where Malcolm is the audience now. We're getting answers to our questions. And if you haven't seen it, they basically deny them a chromosome to make them male. And Malcolm is very upset with this. He's like, oh, that's not going to be good enough for me as an answer. and his reasoning, and it comes up later. It's like almost like an under theme here, but life finds a way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of funny talking about this now in 2025 when they have brought back a dire wolf. So
Yep.
Jurassic Park science is like kind of happening, yet we still don't have the share closet.
Yeah.
What's going
Excellent
on there?
point. Yeah.
You know,
What's up, scientists? Don't you have better things to do than recreate Jurassic Park, recreate Cher's closet?
mm-hmm.
Anyway, the scene that we go to after this where like everyone watches like a cow get fed to the raptors like just
Mm-hmm.
makes me squirm. But it's funny because I had this they mentioned this like later in the movie that I think when they're feeding the T-Rex, like that it doesn't want to be fed, it wants to hunt. And I did have that thought when we see them feeding the raptors. But then this is also where we get a lot of explanation from Muldoon, right, about how dangerous they are and how they have to feed them this way, like because too many things have happened.
Yeah,
If
they're
I'm
too
remembering
smart.
this correctly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they really get into how smart they are and how like one of them in particular. I wrote this line down. I think it's Malcolm says dinosaurs had their shot and nature selected them for extinction.
Yeah, I think it's when they're eating after they saw the feeding, and they're all against this idea except for the blood-sucking lawyer.
Right, right.
Which again, the pivot, the lawyer saying we're going to shut you down, John, like 15 minutes earlier to be like, we're going to make so much fucking money. Let's go. And it's like, what? I thought you were here for this family. I don't know.
No, he's here for money.
Yeah, he's a Muppet villain.
Yeah. Talk about one note.
I will say, my wife pointed out how horribly dressed the lawyer was with his like stupid khaki shorts,
Yeah.
boat shoes, and then like from the top up, like still looking very
Like
lawyery.
very yeah, it's funny. I had that same thought when I first saw like his full outfit. Like I guess maybe I had just noticed him from like the waist up at that point. But then I was like, what are these dumb shorts you're wearing? Like with that shirt, sir?
Those
Uh
shoes?
yeah.
Don't you know you have to run soon?
And to be fair, he probably does like the least running out of all of them.
No, because he doesn't
Um
make it very far. We get also introduced to his grandchildren, who, that's a great idea to do a trial run of a dinosaur park with not only with kids, but my own flesh and blood. Quick note though, don't know anything about their parents. I'm assuming they live with their parents or one of them. I don't know, but in this movie, in this bubble, their parental figure is their grandfather and strangers. So
yeah.
still tracking on that theme.
I mean, technically, their parents could be dead.
Don't
We don't
know.
know.
No
We're
idea.
never told. So put this one in the pile too.
It's in the pile. That's one big
um
pile of shit.
okay, for real though, things that hit differently when you're a parent. Oh my god, who allowed this? Oh my god.
Well, for on the theory that their parents may or may not be in jail or dead, if they are under the guidance of grandpa,
Mhm.
crazy gene splitting grandpa,
Okay,
then this
yes.
makes sense. He just flew them out. Like, come on, kids.
Yeah, you know what? I could actually see the grandpa thinking this was totally fine. And obviously, he
Well,
did.
right, yeah.
But just the idea that they are there in the first place, but then also it's not even like they are going to go hang out with their grandpa because they go on the tour. I almost said ride, but they go on the tour without him. And yeah, he just leaves like random adults in charge of them that they don't know.
Hmm.
And obviously, he just expected the cars to like stay on the track and come right back. But regardless of like what the situation was, I wouldn't just expect like some strangers to take care of my kid.
Listen, these are grown ass kids. They're like 8 and 12. They're basically adults.
To be fair, the boy has dinosaur knowledge to a point where like it actually is very helpful and probably like saves them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man. Oh, but also Tim, the boy, that's my kid. Never stops talking, especially about dinosaurs. Now it's Pokemon, but at the time, dinosaurs.
So we all climb in our deathmobiles, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. They start the ride up. And yeah, I said ride because that's what it feels like, a theme park ride. One of my favorite lines in this film, and there are quite a few good ones, but Sam Jackson just, before it starts, very simply says, "Hold on to your butts." And there was an interview with our not Michael Crichton screenwriter, David Coep, and he said he heard Robert Zemeckis say that on the set of Death Becomes Her, and quote, had the good sense to jot it down immediately and use it.
Nice.
That's pretty awesome. I need to start carrying a little like notepad or something when I hear cool or odd quotes and start putting them down to say in the podcast or whatever.
For your screenwriting career, you mean?
Yeah,
No, I like that there's an origin story to like this really famous quote.
I just thought someone wrote it, or maybe he, as in Sam Jackson, just kind of ad libbed. But apparently,
I was just
he,
gonna say I could have seen him ad-libbing it just because he's Sam Jackson.
yeah. And you get that more than once in this movie. The line's so nice, they say it twice.
It's funny, I had completely forgotten about Samuel L. Jackson being in this. But yes, hold on to your butts, indeed.
When we go through the park, none of the dinosaurs are there, and it's so funny because both as an adult and as a kid, I felt the same way. So that didn't change, but you definitely realize as an adult you're feeling on the side of the scientists and the kids in the car. Disappointment.
Yeah.
Like, I know for a fact as a kid, I was like, where? I mean, Jeff Goldblum, that line is actually kind of what my brain thought of as a kid. You're going to have dinosaurs in this dinosaur park, aren't you?
Right.
And
Yes.
we're, I don't know, 45 minutes in almost, and you get maybe a brachiosaurus, you get
Mm-hmm.
a baby raptor,
Right. Right. Yeah.
right? And the next thing you get is a sick triceratops.
But yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of movie before you really see much of the dinosaurs. This tour is moving along. I think it's safe to say everyone's like bored and disappointed. Like even the paleontologist, I remember there's this shot of like Ellie and Grant looking out the windows, just like looking like sad kids because,
Mm-hmm.
they're not seeing any dinos. But they come across this sick triceratops, and everyone gets out of the car at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this Triceratops is sick. Ellie's trying to figure out what's wrong with it. There's some Jurassic Park employee there saying that, they can't figure it out. But I thought this was so interesting watching this back. I guess it went over my head completely that Ellie is a paleobotanist. I don't know. I just thought of her as a paleontologist, just like Grant. I don't know. But
I'm sure I did when I was a kid. Like, I was like, because they were working together on the Raptor.
mhm.
So I was like, yep, they're a tag team. They do this together. And then even though she talks about plants like here and there and how they're also from different, eras and this and that and how they're
Mhm.
intermingled. As a kid, I was like, I don't. Maybe she just knows a lot about all this stuff because she is a dinosaur scientist. But then as you get
Yeah.
older, you're like, oh no, she has her own specialty that is not bones.
Yeah, I guess I just took it as she like understood what these dinosaurs ate because she's a dino expert. But yeah, I thought this was so interesting that she starts to tell the Jurassic Park employee that, you know, some of these plants they brought back to life, which again, we're talking about cloning the dinosaurs. I wasn't even thinking about the fact that they cloned all these plants too, like all these
Mm-hmm.
different things that had gone extinct. But the problem that Ellie sees is that some of these plants and some of these dinosaurs didn't even exist at the same time originally. And she talks about this particular plant that she sees near the Triceratops being poisonous, but she slaps some really long rubber gloves on, starts digging through the Triceratops poop to see if she can figure out if the Triceratops ate some of this poisonous plant.
Mm-hmm.
And there's never really a resolution. But what I found online is that some dinosaurs, are you familiar with the concept of gizzard stones?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So some dinosaurs, especially ones that ate like a lot of roughage, would swallow stones on purpose along with their plants to
Hmm.
like break up the stuff in their stomach. And then they would eventually like pass the stones or regurgitate them, whatever. But apparently, maybe this is from the book, apparently the Triceratops was swallowing some of the poisonous plant as it looked for gizzard stones to swallow as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
it wasn't eating this plant as a food source, but it was just accidentally eating some of it when it was looking for rocks.
See, I've heard of the stone in the digestive system before. I
Mhm.
just never knew what that was the term for. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Now I know what to call it.
I also found that the Triceratops was the first dinosaur that the actors saw on set. It's a puppet. So this is one of our non-CGI dinos. Laura Dern said that she and Sam Neill really did lay on their bellies on top of the dinosaur to feel it breathing because they couldn't believe how lifelike it was.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
I hope the shot they use of Grant is like the real like reaction to it because it looks happy.
Oh yeah, I had that thought too when I was reading this little quote. I don't think I realized until this rewatch, like how like worried everyone is about this tour. Like they keep talking about like there have been all these glitches and everyone's like, I mean, obviously, like you said, he says, hold on to your butts. But like I don't know. It didn't hit me as like this was so risky, I guess. But
Yeah,
also maybe part of it is like they're hoping they'll all like endorse the park. So like maybe they're not
yeah.
so much scared about things going bad, just they wouldn't enjoy it and then they wouldn't endorse the park.
I mean, watching it as an adult, and I'm going to call it the war room for lack of a better term, but they cut to them in the war room. I feel like they're almost like just biting their nails down. Like
Yeah.
that's the vibe. It's so tense. There's just like cigarette smoke everywhere.
So let me ask you then, is do they put the goat out for the T-Rex because they know that the people haven't seen any dinosaurs yet?
Yeah,
Okay.
at least that's not my take on it. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're trying to
Lure it out.
goat
Yeah.
this T Rex to come out
Ah.
and make curtain call, and no one does. So speaking of the war room, we see Nedry being like really nervous and whatnot, because he's about to go steal the embryo, plural. And I bring this up because I don't know if I noticed it until maybe I saw him at Blossom or this current watch, and it kind of re-triggered it. But John Williams, for rightful reasons, gets a lot of credit for these two main themes. But there are a lot of little things that go on in the movie, like when he's going through, you know, the facilities to steal the embryos and whatnot, moves the movie along. It helps build tension in a scene that doesn't have scary dinosaurs.
I like this juxtaposition between like how cocky he obviously was about pulling this off because we saw it when he was talking with that guy in the beginning too, like as if there's no way this would fail, like really didn't
Yeah.
feel like he had anything to worry about. Obviously was feeling pretty sure of himself when he programmed that thing. But then like in reality, like in real time when he's trying to get out of there with this thing, like his whole like his confidence is just like gone. And I understand there's like extenuating circumstances with the storm and everything, but like he is a hot mess
Oh yeah.
this whole time. And I feel like he already was that like facade had already slipped before he like crashed the car and couldn't figure out which way the dock was and everything.
Yeah, because right before he goes to do that, he's like a bumbling mess. He's like
Yes.
super nervous.
Oh yeah, that's right. Cause he like talks to them all weirdly and they're all like, what's wrong with you? He's
Yeah.
like, "Nothing." And he's, like, obviously sweating. Uh, we don't
Sorry.
want him to get away with the dino DNA, but picturing this scene in my head now where he's, like, in the mud and scared and everything,
Hmm.
like, maybe I'm just a big softie, but, like, I felt so bad for him. Obviously, I want him to get caught because he's the villain, but I'm also like, "Please don't die in the mud." But
Listen, they had to show us the Dilophosaurus somehow. I think this is one of the scarier looking dinosaurs in the movie. Maybe because it's smaller and we get like a nice up close picture of it, or maybe because before his frills are up, he does look kind of innocent, I guess, and he's like kind of doing the dog head cocking thing to Nedry when he's talking to him. But then when his frills are up, it snarls out. It is terrifying.
yeah, I couldn't help thinking of the Gremlins when I first saw this dinosaur pop up.
Hmm.
Um, maybe just because it's a puppet, I don't know, but just in its face, I kept seeing the gremlins.
I think it's like, I don't know, the way the lips are when it snarls and the little jagged teeth, where like the T-Rex has these huge teeth. Obviously, it's a big dinosaur, but I can totally see that.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that with the teeth. That's a good point.
When I was little, for whatever reason, like when the Shaven King gets dropped and there's like a close up and there's mud covering it, my brain was like, oh, this is going to be a setup for a sequel. And I was thinking of like somehow the DNA would get all like mussed together and therefore make like this ultra villain of a dinosaur, which they kind of do in like one of the Jurassic World sequels. They like cross all these DNAs and add like cheetah and chameleon, some weird Frankenstein shit. But yeah, I was thinking it would just like fester, and that would be like second Jurassic Park movie. Like, I don't, it doesn't make sense, right? Because they're supposed to be kept cold for X amount of hours, and
Right.
how are they gonna like combine and therefore also birth itself? But 8-year-old Joe's like, hell yeah, giant monster dinosaur in the sequel.
Yeah, I remember thinking too as a kid, like, it's being buried, it could still be discovered again.
Mm-hmm.
So I am totally with you on that.
I had read that our screenwriter, Coep, Coep. I don't know. I'm going to say different every time. I'm sorry, David. Uh, I read that our screenwriter, David, said that he meant for the shaving cream to be buried to kind of represent like all the dreams are gone now. Sort of like money in the suitcase blowing away at the end of Killing, gold dust blowing away at the end of The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. This is
Have
good.
you never seen that?
No, I've not seen that one, no.
Oh my God. Okay. Go back and revisit both of these movies, okay?
Basically, he thought it implied it was gone forever, and obviously that was not interpreted that way.
I also found this a few places online, but I couldn't find a source, so like take this one with a grain of salt. There are rumors that Spielberg did mean for the buried shaving cream can to set up a sequel, but then Crichton's second book, the sequel to Jurassic Park, went in a different direction, so we had to scrap that idea for, the sequel in movie form.
Oh.
But again, I have not found anything where Steven Spielberg actually says this, just people saying he supposedly said this.
It's fact to me now.
Yeah, so I think, you know, hopefully this all makes you feel a little better. You're not the
Yeah.
only one
Yeah,
who
if
thought
Steven
this.
Spielberg thinks that buried shaving cream under mud could lead to a sequel, then he convinced me, obviously, at 8 years old. So, good job, Steven.
There you go.
Crichton had to ruin it with a sequel to his own book. Last bit on Nedry. I dressed up like him for Halloween at work, just because we're allowed to sort of dress up if we want, as long as it's like work appropriate. So nothing really horror and scary, and still have most of your work uniform on. Jurassic Park rain slicker on.
Oh, nice.
I already had like a bluish Hawaiian shirt, because why not? I just like stuffed it with a pillow and walked around at work all day.
Did anyone get it?
Yes. Some of them
Okay.
did. Some of them, one of the guys who works the frozen department asked if I was the Gordon Fisherman. And I thought that was great, actually. I thought it was hilarious.
So now I have that like the commercial jingle in my head, like trust the Gordon Fisherman. Those were around a lot when we were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
That was like such a big brand when we were growing up, I feel.
Well,
Anyway, keep going.
while he's dying, they're trying to debug the now bugged system so they can turn everything back on, because he turned the power off to obviously steal things. And I love when he's trying to crack Nedry's code, another dumb line that I love so much that I also use quite often in real life. Just simply, you didn't say the magic word.
This is the one part where, when his little like computer self pops up and says that, where I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. He can die because that's really annoying.
I was on your side until you annoyed me.
It's just, that's like obnoxious. Well, and I guess to give him a little credit, he didn't think it would be this all out like mess with the hurricane hitting and the dinosaurs getting loose and whatever. But I'm just picturing the whole T-Rex scene, and then these people are trying to get things back online, and his little like sassy computer self pops up.
Ah, ah, ah.
But that brings us to our very iconic T-Rex scene where both of our Jurassic Park, I don't know, tour cars are stalled in front of the T-Rex pen. All I can say about this is like, I was so scared. And I've seen this before.
Oh, you're talking about you're scared now.
Yeah, okay. When I was a kid seeing this, definitely I was scared. I literally remember hiding behind one of the recliners in my living room. But even watching this as an adult, like, I know who survives this movie. You know, I don't remember every single beat, but I remember who gets eaten, who survives, knowing all that from the very first like ripple in the water.
Mm-hmm.
That tension building is so perfect. Like, I was still so scared for everyone, even knowing how this all ends.
Yes. Yes. You want to talk about deaths that were warranted because you were annoyed. The
Mhm.
lawyer goes from like he's kind of slowly becoming a prick, I guess, because he wants to shut down Heyman, and he's like, "Oh, you're the bad guy because I want to see Jurassic Park, obviously." And then when all the scientists are like, "That's probably a bad idea. Chaos is going to reign supreme," he's like, "We're going to make money," but now you're another kind of bad guy.
Mhm.
And then finally, he's just like a dick to these kids. Timmy's playing with all the stuff in the car, and he gets these really cool night vision glasses. And he's, the lawyer's like, "Are they heavy? Then they're expensive. Put them back." And he's just so rude to these kids. And then when shit hits the fan, he AWOLs on them.
Yeah, this is one that's making me sound so like vindictive. I didn't mind necessarily that he got because like he just abandoned those
Right.
kids.
Well, that's what I'm saying though. Like we had to have some people get eaten by dinosaurs because it wouldn't make sense that that wouldn't happen, especially when they get loose. If you're gonna pick some victims, make them some kind of unsavory characters.
Yeah, I was gonna say how convenient that the like Muppet movie like one note villain
Mm-hmm.
gets eaten. I mean, he was an easy casualty here. Just
Yeah.
no one cared. No one liked him anyway.
Mm-mm.
That was an easy one.
Stupid
Um,
shorts and boating shoes.
for some reason though, this just made me think of like, the horror movie rules where like if you do something bad, you get
Yeah.
killed. I
Yeah.
mean, we've already seen that. Like the two bad guys get killed
Yeah.
because one stole and one like tried to save his own skin and left these kids for dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that being said though, I don't know if I would run out of the vehicle and into a little hut of a bathroom. Like, I don't know if that would scream safety to me.
Yeah, you're leaving a car for a hut, and I don't know the thought process. It's farther from the dinosaur. I don't
Well,
know.
it's farther, I guess, in theory, like you could see into the car, right? So you could see there were people in the car from the T Rex's viewpoint.
Right, but the T Rex is formerly extinct. And now he's back, and does he know what people look like and what they are, or
That's
what
a
a car
really good
is?
point. What a car is.
Like, yeah, it's just like I don't know. I guess fight or flight in Flight One. So
Yeah, for real. So let's back up a little bit. The lawyer sucks, we have established.
yes.
If you remember the beginning of this scene where they start to realize something very bad is coming,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of hear some booms in the distance, but what they notice is these cups of water rippling, the ripples in the water. That's been like parodied and used like so many times by now. Like that's how famous it is. I recently saw a commercial. I want to say it was for a liquor brand, but they did this same thing. They had like the ripples forming in a cocktail glass. There wasn't a dinosaur, but I'm just saying, like everyone knows now. This is like a visual cue.
Right.
But I like this quote from Spielberg because it's totally just not what I was expecting. So this is Spielberg. I was listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire in my car and had it cranked up really loud. I suddenly saw my rear view mirror vibrating every time the horn section came in. I thought, what if when the T Rex approaches, the mirror starts vibrating? That is in the picture. But then I thought, what if it was a glass of water and these concentric circles? So I gave it to Michael Lantieri, the guy in charge of physical effects, and he came up with how to actually achieve those ripples by using guitar strings placed under the dashboard.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. First of all, just using guitar strings under the dashboard, it just makes me think of like old-timey radio plays where they'd use all these different things for sound effects. Like,
Hmm.
it's funny to think how far technology has come in storytelling and visuals and sound, but also sometimes you just gotta like make some weird contraption to get what you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know what I thought was his inspiration for this scene, but Earth, Wind, and Fire was not it.
Yeah. I mean, I I guess that the band doesn't matter, but the point is
Right,
he's
yeah.
just rocking out in his car, and he's like, "That's cool. We got to do this."
The lawyer's already gone by the time we see the T-Rex, right?
Yeah. When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yep. I did like because I remembered that line, but I did like that Grant is very concerned and like, where's that guy going?
Hmm.
But so you have the kids in one car, Grant and Malcolm are in a second car behind the kids, right? Ellie stayed behind with the Triceratops, is that
Yeah, she stayed
okay?
to take care of that. That's why she's doing all the adventure stuff later and kind of being our hero,
Hmm.
our like our Ripley, if you will.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, could you imagine if this was James Cameron? That could have been Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
And
Huh. I could see it.
then he could recycle the line from Aliens later in Jurassic Park and be like, "Stay away from her, you bitch!" when the dinosaurs are attacking. I love this idea.
Oh, yeah, that works though, because they're all the dinosaurs are female, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm, mhm. We both had some stuff we learned about this T-Rex.
Yeah. We talked earlier about the bigger shots of full bodied dinosaurs or whatnot, especially the T Rex was CGI. But like I said, they had some animatronics for the close up shots. This T Rex was roughly 12,000 pounds and would often just like break down and or fire up randomly.
Mhm.
They were like warning lights and whatnot when they were getting it ready to go, but sometimes it would just go and like injure crew members and whatnot. I think part of it was the rain. I think damaged it. I read that somewhere. They
Mhm.
were actually stuck in a storm. Most of them bunkered down into like the hotel lobby or whatever, except for I forget his name. The guy who played Hammond, and he's like, "I lived through the Blitz. I didn't. Nothing bothers me."
Oh, Richard Attenborough.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, this malfunctioning T Rex animatronic, that's terrifying. And it
Yes.
terrified the staff as well. Because like I said, they were getting injured and they were all like really afraid of it in real life.
On a slightly different note, I read that it soaked up a lot of the rainwater and its midsection like swelled and ballooned, so then it like wasn't at the right proportions anymore, which I can appreciate how terrifying it would be to randomly have this thing go off with like how
Hmm.
big it is, how loud the sounds were, whatever. But also just imagining it with this big like beer belly, like
Yeah, that's awesome.
probably made it a little less intimidating. One of the puppeteers said, so it went from this beautifully tuned machine that worked fantastically to suddenly the foam rubber skin started absorbing water, and now all of the calculations were off and it started to shudder. We went out and bought tons of towels and started putting big blowers, dryers on it to dry it out. And the poor boy who played Timmy, that part where the car's already falling apart and the T-Rex is coming down on the two kids and they just have that like glass like sunroof separating them. That's what I always think about when I like picture this scene aside from the ripples in the water. The actor said, "We were in that car and I think the T-Rex was only supposed to go down so far and the plexiglass was the only thing between the dinosaur and us. It came down too far one time and it chipped the plexiglass and broke a tooth. And if you pause on it, you can actually see in the movie that there's a shot during that scene where the T Rex is missing a tooth."
That's pretty funny.
So I'll have to go back and look for this next time.
I've noticed like the chip in the glass because like in the I don't know if you're looking at them holding up the upper left corner, it looks like something took a bite out of it, like a big animal, but maybe not quite as big as a T Rex. I
Okay.
don't know if that's where he chipped his tooth or whatever on it, but
There's a point where Dr. Grant jumps out of his car, realizing the kids are in danger, with a flare because he's trying to lure it away. Sam Neill said, "I've still got a big scar on my left hand that I'm looking at right now from the flare. It dropped some burning phosphorus on me and got under my watch and took a chunk of my arm out."
damn.
That's commitment. But speaking of these flares, I was struck at how stupid Malcolm is getting out, like right after him with a
Hmm.
flare. I, I can't remember. I think Dr. Grant throws his away, right? Like
Yeah,
throws it out somewhere. Okay, away from him. Malcolm then runs out and just runs away with the flare to lead the dinosaur away, but like as a result gets chased by the T-Rex.
right. Yeah, I don't know why. I feel like maybe again fight or flight, and it seemed like he was a little scared more than maybe Grant. Even though I'm sure they're both shitting themselves because T Rex. And so he sees what Grant did, and he wanted to copy. I don't know if it's part of the movie. Like you feel like Malcolm is kind of creeping up on Laura Dern's character. Like he's
Yes,
obviously flirting with her in front of Dr. Grant and all these other things.
right.
And they have this like conversation in the car, and you kind of feel like there's like a Malcolm's got a little bit of an ego, and he maybe doesn't think super highly of Dr. Grant. Like maybe not as a scientist, but like maybe as a person. Like he's just like, yeah, this nerd. Um, and so maybe it was challenged his ego. I don't know. I just remember like when he lights it in the car, like because you see him, Grant throws it, and then you see Glowbloom light it, but he's in the car first, like where it's all steamy and foggy. Like that's fucking dangerous. Why would you
Yeah,
do
that's a good
that?
point.
And then he runs out and gets trampled by a T Rex. So I guess lots of mistakes were had here.
Yeah, I guess I read this as him just being really scared for the kids, but you have a point about the ego thing too. Although speaking of his flirting, did you know that Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern dated in real life after this?
I've heard that. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how they met.
It's interesting.
But this whole decision by Malcolm, he gets attacked by the T-Rex or trampled, whatever.
Right.
Um,
Something happens.
but it brings us to another iconic scene with an iconic line.
Yeah. Later, Ellie and Muldoon they go out looking for the survivors because they have a gas jeep. Everything else is broken down. That's why they have to go find them.
Hmm.
They find Goldblum, and you see the ripple again while they're looking for the other people as Malcolm's waiting to leave. They, of course, get to the Jeep just in time to drive away. Boom, there comes a T Rex. There's another chase. I love this scene. I love the intensity the music, provides. I love that in the review mirror,
Hmm.
it says, objects in the mirror closer than it appears. And at one point, like the T Rex is like stretching its neck out and opening its mouth to like snap at them, and that's
Hmm.
like all you can see dig down its throat. Like how close is this thing? It's so scary.
Yeah.
And he says, "Must go faster." And I love that line. I love that it gets used again in another Goldblum movie in Independence Day.
I did catch it on this rewatch that there's an earlier bit where Hammond is saying specifically how many miles per hour a T-Rex can run.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I believe it was under 35 because but it gives you a clue to be like, okay, a car really could outrun it.
Yeah, I think he says like we clocked him at 32 or something like that. But yeah,
Hmm.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yep.
that's fun.
They get out of it because Jeff Goldblum's character stops laying on what is it, the clutch,
Yeah, the shifter,
the shift.
the
There we
gear
go,
shift.
the
Yeah.
gear shift. Yeah. I just wanted to mention the iconic meme of, later Jeff Goldblum still injured, laying out at the lab or wherever they are hunkering down, and his
Mm-hmm.
shirt is unbuttoned for whatever reason. All I could think of was that meme. Like, I couldn't take this scene seriously at all at this point because of the time I am in. and the existence of the
Right.
internet.
In my head,
Hmm.
what the actor is thinking is so he's laying there. He's like, I'm immobile now for most of the movie. I'm not going to say or do much. I'm out.
Hmm.
What's going to make this scene memorable? I got it. I'm going to unbutton my shirt and lay in a certain pose that just screams sex appeal
I mean,
and dinosaurs.
it does look like he's on the cover of a romance novel.
Yes.
Yeah, sex appeal and dinosaurs.
That's the name of my new album, by the way.
Okay.
So we have a scene with Heyman, and I feel bad for him, but I know I'm not supposed to. He's kind of sort of like another villain in the movie, but like a
Hmm.
lovable one. He did kind of create this mess, and then
Yes.
also like did a test drive with his family behind the wheel, literally.
Hmm.
But when he has a scene with Laura Dern and they're eating the melted ice cream or whatever, and he just all he wanted to do was be an entertainer.
Hmm.
He wanted to make people happy, and he just happened to have the ability to have lots of money to buy things that could make extravagant parks. I think he's got like an exotic zoo in Africa they'd mentioned at one point.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
Um, and this is like he keeps like going bigger and bigger,
Hmm.
and also his grandkids are out there, so you got to kind of like you're mad because it's kind of his fault, but it's like, well,
Hmm.
that's his family. I get it.
I did read, when I was researching all of this, that in the novel, he really is more of a villain. And I mean, obviously, in the movie, you can argue that he's the villain because he's the one that like caused all this in the first place, right? But I think in the novel, he's much less empathetic, much less concerned about all the bad things that are now happening.
Hmm.
Spoiler alert, he dies in the book. But I think it was Michael Crichton. Someone was really pushing for Hammond to still die in the movie because they felt like he was like the real villain and like deserved his comeuppance and whatnot. I think that was what I want to say it was Joe Dante, like one of the other people who could have directed this. That's what he would have changed. I watched an interview with him that he would have made Hammond more of a villain because in the book he's like not even really concerned about his grandchildren being out there, and that explains more of why they were alone on this
Mm,
tour too. Like he just really doesn't care.
yeah, in this version, the real version, the only version. Yeah, the whole time I just feel for him though. Like he
Mhm.
seems very genuine in wanting to have these dinosaurs and to entertain people. The lawyer says, "Oh, we're gonna make money. We'll have a coupon day, and it's still gonna cost $1 bajillion to get in." And he's like, "No, bro, that's not what we're doing. I brought this to the world for people, and that's why his kids are there. He wants to again, it's a test ride, right? And he's got to get the scientists to come and approve it because of the accident that happened. But like, clearly, his grandson loves dinosaurs, and he wants to make sure like." Is it living up to standards of children? Like this is a theme park.
Mhm.
The target audience is going to be kids,
Yeah.
which obviously you have to bring your parents, but
Yeah. Well, that's how you get, double ticket sales because
right.
parents have to bring the kids.
But he just seems to me like he is very excited and almost like his inner child here. But in a scene where, like around the table earlier, where they're all kind of bashing the idea, and Malcolm's like, "Yeah, you took what other people had and you ran with it without even like a thought or a notion, and you stood on the shoulders of giants or something like that." And
Mhm.
that's where you kind of feel like, oh man, this guy maybe he ran before he can crawl, so to speak.
Yeah, I got that sense too in his dialogue in this scene with Ellie eating the ice cream. He keeps saying they spared no expense.
Hmm.
And I think he believes that, but I think we're also supposed to realize that there's been some huge oversights in terms of like safety and backup measures. Like, they maybe you didn't spare any expense, but yet this is all still happening.
Right.
So maybe there were some really big things you overlooked.
I actually thought of something you overlooked,
Hmm.
and it's actually part of the plot, but it could
Okay.
have changed the outcome of the movie. So,
Hmm.
hear me out.
Okay.
So That line is used so much, spare no expense, and it's almost like a running gag, especially
Mm-hmm.
when they're eating the ice cream and she's like, it is really good.
Yeah.
The whole point, the power is out. The whole reason the power is out, I should say, is Nedry turned it off so he can go
Mm-hmm.
steal the embryos to go
Mm-hmm.
sell it to whoever. But twice in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
Nedry mentions that he doesn't think he's being compensated enough.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one area where they did spare some expense, and it
Yes.
was Nedry's salary, apparently, and maybe if Hammond wasn't cheap on him, as he
Yeah.
says, none of this would have happened. We could have had a happy theme park with dinosaurs.
Yeah. See, there you go. I'm with you on this.
Oof.
Especially from, learning that Hammond is so much more of a bad guy in the book. Apparently, there is more of a reason for Nedry to be upset about his pay or lack of compensation. So, yeah, I think some of these things really are like holdovers from like Crichton's first iteration of the screenplay.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. No,
Let
I'm
that be
with
a
you on
lesson
this.
out there. Pay your employees.
Yeah, pay your employees so they don't do dumb shit like this. Speaking of such, could you imagine being like Samuel L. Jackson's character and like risking your life for your job?
um, First of all, no. Second of all, I feel like at this point the job is mute. I think he's risking his life because they had to reboot the power. They had to turn everything off and back on, and I think it's more for their own asses.
I appreciate that now it's a matter of survival. Yeah.
Yeah,
But just, oh my God, if your stupid place of employment put you in this situation.
yeah, I'd be pretty pissed.
Yeah,
So that's a character that dies. That's not a bad guy,
I
but he's also
know.
like a very minor character, unfortunately.
He might be the only one who died. Oh, him and Muldoon are the.
Muldoon, yeah.
Yeah.
He was the one warning people about the raptors too. So that's one of the poetic deaths where he's like, "I respect these animals. They shouldn't be here. They're dangerous." And then he gets eaten.
Yeah, he's the only one with any common sense, with
Hmm.
any idea of like how bad this could all really go.
Right.
And he's genuinely trying to warn everyone, do everything he can. He helps Ellie get, to the, was it like the substation safely
Yeah.
just to be hunted. But that's another iconic line too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know. I say this quite often. I
Hmm.
say a lot of these lines. Damn, man, I watch this movie too much. When he's getting attacked from the side, and we just get that clever girl.
My husband says that a lot, and I had like completely forgotten it was from Jurassic Park until
What?
recently. I know. Look, I haven't seen this in a while. I also don't think I realized how quotable this movie actually is.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm proud or kind of embarrassed how many lines I use on the daily from this movie.
It's okay. You just love it so much.
While Muldoon and Ellie are going through the park to go turn on the secondary power supply, before they leave, for some reason now, Heyman wants to be a hero. I think maybe that's part of the reason why in this movie versus the book, like I'm not mad at him because he does seem like he knows he messed up and he's trying to make amends with himself, with these scientists, obviously with his grandkids. And so he decides that he should be the one going with Muldoon through a walk on the park because he's a and she's a and I like the I like the line she gives back to him where she's like, "We'll talk about sexism and survivalism when I get back."
Yeah.
Keep in mind, like this man has a walking cane and he's a grandpa,
Yes.
and Laura Dern looks pretty fit in this role, especially when she's like sprinting and leaping over trees through the woods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Grandpa Hammond could never, so that's fine.
Now,
I appreciate that he wants to take responsibility for his like abomination, but
hmm
sir, you have a cane. Just sit down.
also you're wearing all white. That's gonna get damaged real quickly.
God. One last thing I want to point out about this whole sequence, though, when Ellie finally makes it into that substation, Muldoon holds off the raptors for however you want to say it. she does eventually get the power back on, and then she starts looking for Samuel L. Jackson's character, and she eventually feels a hand on her shoulder. She's like, "Oh, thank God, finally found you." It's just his arm. This part haunts me.
She says haunts me.
I just well, first of all, I feel so bad for his character. Like, what did he do to deserve this? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. But, it's not always tit for tat, I understand. But just I don't know, this poor man, I'm just like torn apart by raptors.
Yeah.
Ellie's whole reaction, realizing it's just a severed arm, like just full on like horror movie face, horror movie scream, like,
Yeah. Don't
yeah.
know where that arm was and why it was just like kind of floating at shoulder level, but it's not like the one part of the movie. It's just like every time I watch it, go. Besides maybe the first time, like this just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why is it just? What is it? I don't know. It's weird. I don't like
I
it.
thought it fell onto her.
If well, she like backs up and it like drapes over her shoulder, and she thinks it's him, like he's almost
Yeah.
like comforting her or something. And then she turns, like holding his wrist because the
Yeah.
actress probably needs to hold the prop,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
turns towards the camera, her shoulder, and so then you see like the bloody stump. And I'm like, where did this
Yeah.
come from?
I guess I always assumed it was like tangled up in some
Sure.
tables or something. I don't
I mean,
know.
probably that's probably what it's supposed to be, but it just doesn't connect for me. Maybe I'm the wrong one here, but that's just it distracts me for a second. But then like the raptor comes and you get these close-ups of him like snarling through the fence and looks so terrifying.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe that's why we had the bad guys get eaten. Now we have these side characters that are done nothing wrong to our main characters. They get eaten because I think now the transition goes from like, oh, these dinosaurs eating the bad guys. They're not so bad. Hey, they're eating innocent people. Now we have to like we have new villains now. They're the raptors, and we got to get out of here. It's like a power shift sort of.
Yeah, that's true. Just in case you weren't aware, they'll eat more of you.
Right, exactly. Not just the bad ones.
Yep. I did want to jump back a couple scenes. I just love that whole scene where Grant is walking with the kids through a clearing and this herd of Gallimimus starts sprinting around them.
Hmm.
And I think I just liked the idea that you're still in danger despite it not being something that's going to try to eat you. Because, like,
Right.
obviously they could very easily get trampled by this herd of dinosaurs. And I just really like the visuals of them, hiding behind this, like, I think it's like a tree that fell down or this big log.
Yeah.
So basically, the dinosaurs are able to hop over them. They're not really in danger of that herd anymore. But then they see the T Rex pop out from the trees and eat one of the Gallimimus herd.
Mm.
And poor Lex, like, because even when they encounter the plant eating dinosaur, it sneezes on her.
Yeah, the kids kind of get through the ringer. I mean, obviously Timmy more so, but they do seem to. They're both going to be traumatized, obviously.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just the acting, but my impression is that Lex is already more traumatized than Timmy, despite Timmy being like physically injured so many times, like
Yeah.
being stuck in the tree, having the car fall on him when he finally gets out of the tree,
Yep.
the electric fence turning on while he's on
Right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Timmy electrocuted by the fence. That's and maybe it's arguing another scene that is like kind of weird to me because this is supposed to like ward off giant dinosaurs, and Timmy survives. That being said, I do love the intercutting of Ellie turning on the power before she finds the arm, and the other characters climbing up and down the fence. The shot they use, the music they're using, and seeing it a bunch of times. I know Timmy's going to be okay, but the
Yeah.
tension that's built up is so good
Hmm.
that I think it's like forgivable that this small child got shot off of an electric fence that would definitely have probably made him explode.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way they do it, I just every time I'm like, oh, just freaking climb faster, Timmy. God damn it.
Yeah. And I think that hit me harder watching it back this time. Just how frantic Grant and Lex are, like, trying to get him off the freaking fence.
Hmm.
But then that's such a good point that you made that these are supposed to be powerful enough to stop dinosaurs,
Yeah.
and he survives the shock.
I mean, listeners are going to argue that he like let go at the same time, so like he just kind of got zapped a little bit, but I still think that'd be enough to just no more Timmy. But
Yeah, that kid has really been through the ringer.
he's durable.
He is. I feel like he's like physically scarred. His sister is emotionally scarred.
Yeah, best of both
That's where I am.
worlds.
Yeah. Best of both worlds. Oh my God. But this brings us to everyone finally being back together at, I guess, like the visitor center, like the main building. The kids are eating, and all of a sudden, their jello starts shaking.
Yeah, this is an awesome scene.
Yep.
I mean, that shot, I think that's also been parodied numerous times
Hmm.
as well, because, how could you not?
Yeah. But all I could think of, like, when you see Lex's face when the jello starts shaking, like, she knows at
Hmm.
this point what this means. But I love the whole scene that follows where the kids are like running around the kitchen and the raptors are stalking them.
Oh, yeah.
This is so well done and like well choreographed. I still can't keep track of like where everyone is and where the raptors are and like the part where you really think they're going to get Lex and she
Yes.
finally pulls down the, I guess it's like a cabinet cover, I don't know, a door.
Well, no, she's trying to,
Mhm.
and like, you think she's going to get eaten because she does not pull it down, but it's her reflection.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the part that was so cool.
Yeah, that's what
This,
I always think of.
yeah,
I still get got by that part.
yeah. This whole scene is it feels like a horror movie, like they're hiding from the masked murderer that broke into their house.
Mhm, absolutely.
They can also jump on top of the counters and eat them, of course.
Yeah. But I think what I appreciate so much about this though is yes, they're only kids, but I don't really feel like they're making any of those dumb decisions like when you're watching a horror movie and you're like, "Oh my God, why did you run into the house, you idiot?" Or like, I can appreciate why they thought hiding in the kitchen might be a good idea, even though they're like cornered. They end up being cornered, but it's not like outside is safer either.
Well, keep in mind too that they closed the door, and right before that, you get the line. It's like, "Oh, we're safe indoors unless they didn't figure out how to open doors," and then the Raptors are opening doors. So, like,
Yes.
to be fair,
Hmm.
they probably thought they were safe in this stainless steel kitchen with a closed door.
Hmm.
That, of course, only locks when the power's on because they have the like digital bolts or whatever.
Yes.
They're not just like turning a deadbolt.
Yeah. So I did find a quote from a puppeteer. I did not realize that a lot of this scene, there were people in raptor suits,
Hmm.
like performing this scene. I guess I thought these dinosaurs were too small for it to be a person in a suit. But this guy said one of the main scenes was when it first comes in the door, reaches up and hoots. That's me in the suit doing that. So it's like just this man like recalling like, yep, that was
That's
me
awesome.
opening the door. But yeah, I remember as a kid like almost like not caring as much about the raptors. I think especially when we were kids too, it was just like T-Rex above everything.
Hmm.
So watching it back, I definitely got that sense of like the raptors being more of the big bad
Oh yeah.
because they're so smart,
Yes, and so
obvious.
very dangerous. I feel like they make the Raptors like villainous, like they're doing it out of some sort of vengeance. Like the T Rex is threatening, but it's just a big dinosaur, and it's a predator. It eats meat, so it's going to eat people or gallimimuses or whatever. And like obviously the size is scary. These
Mhm.
raptors seem menacing. Like they seem like they're hunting to hunt and
Yeah.
not.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, I got the impression that they're gonna kill you just to kill you.
Hmm.
I feel like there's this characterization to the Raptors that they're just like evil and chaotic and there's no rhyme or reason to whatever they're doing. But I did have this note, the actor that played Timmy, actually got hurt filming this. The way they'd choreographed this scene in the kitchen, Timmy was supposed to run in one direction, the raptor was supposed to run in the other direction, and somehow they got mixed up and Timmy collided with the raptor and he got hit with that big claw like right in his forehead.
Jesus.
This was on his birthday.
Ha!
So, after making sure he was okay, he's, like, laying on the ground and, Spielberg and other people crowded around to make sure he was okay. And then Spielberg says, "Well, this is as good a time as any," and then he made everyone sing happy birthday to him.
Oh my God.
And also, the actress who played Lex on her birthday, you had kind of alluded to this, they were hit by a hurricane.
Hmm.
It was, like, the worst hurricane that's ever hit Hawaii, and
Nice.
yeah, they all had to end up, like, evacuating after the storm passed, but that was on her birthday, they got hit by the hurricane, so, the actor playing Timmy just made a point that, like, there was always something, like, bad happening on their birthdays.
So very much like their characters, Timmy physically scarred,
Yeah,
Lex emotionally scarred from
there
this
you go.
movie. Oh my God.
Life imitates art.
Life finds a way.
I completely missed the part in the beginning where they set up Lex being, like, a hacker.
Yeah, they towards where they first introduced the kids and they're walking, I think, to the Triceratops, and Timmy has Grant's book and he calls his sister a nerd, and she's like, "I'm not a nerd, I'm a hacker." And it's like so
Mhm.
quick and so brief, and you're like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna forget about that." And then
Yeah.
2 hours later, oh shit, good thing I didn't forget about that.
Well, yeah, because when I was watching this scene in the end where, she's able to get things back online, I was like, did she just, like, happen to take a class in this and it's, like, a lucky coincidence? But, yeah, apparently she's good with computers.
Yeah, I would
So,
still maybe say lucky coincidence, but yes, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I love this ending scene, though, where I think it's Ellie, Grant, and the kids are about to run out of the building and they end up in the lobby where there's that fossil display of like a T-Rex and I think he's eating raptors or something like that.
I think it's a T-Rex and one of the long neck ones, a Brachio or a
Mm,
Brontosaurus of some sort. I think
he's eating
it's
something.
yeah.
But as our human characters are running through this space, the raptors kind of corner them again and you really think this is it. There's no escape. And the T-Rex comes in and saves the day by fighting the raptors.
Right. This
Mhm.
one hunts for food.
Mhm.
Raptors hunt to be evil meanies.
Right? But so, I love this dichotomy of the T-Rex sort of being the hero in the end because that's what allows all our human characters to escape. But I love that, the T-Rex kind of flinging the raptors around, it's paralleling that fossil display they had with the T-Rex fossil attacking something. But then also that final shot of the dinosaurs where the banner's falling down around the T-Rex while it roars, and I think the banner says, like, "When dinosaurs ruled the earth."
She's like roaring in victory, I always felt like.
Mhm. But I like the symbolism of, that message on the banner and, like, "Oh, they're back ruling the earth." At least
Yes.
this one little part of it. Yeah, but then, everyone escapes on the helicopter, although not until one of them, I wanna say it's Grant, tells Hammond, like, "I've decided not to endorse your park." And he's like, "Yeah, me neither." I can't help feeling like it's so cheesy when they're on the helicopter and, like, the kids are both asleep on either side of Dr. Grant, and it's like, "Oh, he likes kids now."
Yeah. No,
'Cause
he's not an asshole, right? I mean, he may not like kids, but he's not gonna leave them in a jeep to die.
yeah, there's a very big difference between, like, not preferring to be around kids and just leaving them to die.
Yes, big difference.
Yes. I also like this bit where he's, looking out the window of the helicopter. He sees the birds flying by because we've alluded to that emerging science of birds actually being dinosaurs. Dinosaurs
Hmm.
evolved in the birds. They're not reptiles, I guess. So, other thoughts on Jurassic Park?
I like the two running themes in Jurassic Park: natural selection versus playing God,
Hmm.
which also kind of parallel and leans into the other one, which is capitalism, the American dream. We get Heyman, who's kind of at the center of both of these kind of theories here.
Yeah.
He's clearly the one playing God, even though I don't think he does any of the science himself, but he is the one kind of fronting it, I suppose.
He funds the science, I guess.
Yeah, and it was,
Yeah.
I think, his crazy dream of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously being the, Mr. Moneybags, he's obviously the epicenter of the capitalism thing. More so, though, I think on this theory here, the lawyer is the bad guy in the situation, especially when he's just like, those are heavy, they're expensive, put them down. You're a kid, you're gonna break them.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna make so much money. We're only gonna let the elite come here and spend all their money. So like he's just seeing like dollar signs like Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. I wanted to point out, I thought this was really interesting. The raptors in this movie were a lot taller than what known raptors were at the
Mm-hmm.
time. But shortly after Jurassic Park was made, the Utah raptor was discovered, which I have heard of because if any of you are familiar with Dinosaur Train and the, alphabet song with all the dinosaurs, U is Utah raptor. But Utah raptors are similar height and build to the raptors in the movie. It
Hmm.
was the one thing that they really didn't worry too much about getting right because they felt like they needed the raptors to be a little bigger just to look more menacing. But in the end, they actually ended up being correct because there was a species of raptor found that fit the description that Jurassic Park put them in.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah. That all being said, I did find that there was a huge surge in paleontology after this movie came out. Apparently, paleontology had waned as an interest, especially in people going into the sciences. They were more into like space, astronomy, because we were coming off of like the space race and the Cold War. Dinosaur interest apparently fell by the wayside, but there was so much interest in paleontology as a field after Jurassic Park that there was an average of 50 new discoveries per year of like new
Wow.
dinosaur new species that lived during this time, that not all dinosaurs. That all being said, dinosaurs only have about 15 minutes of screen time in the entire movie.
And cost most of the budget.
Yeah, they couldn't pay poor Laura Dern.
It's cool though because not seeing it as often, I feel
Mhm.
like makes it scarier.
Oh, for sure. But I also would have never guessed it was such little screen time.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. Yeah.
In terms of legacy, it did very well for itself, right? Ended up having the biggest opening weekend gross in history at the time, beating Batman Returns. No
Hmm.
matter what we do, we come back to Batman.
Damn right.
Yep, it was the highest grossing movie of 1993. It was also, for a time, the highest grossing film ever until Titanic beat the record.
Hmm.
But Steven Spielberg also beat his own record with Jurassic Park because the previous record holder was E.T.
Okay.
So it was like Spielberg, Cameron, because Titanic and then Avatar.
You know, I understand now why they might have considered Tim Burton because if the previous highest grossing one at the time was Batman Returns, I guess that would make sense. Like as a studio, you want to go to where the money is.
What if they were, trying to give him something to like get him off of Batman? And they were like, what if we give you this dinosaur movie, please? Back to Jurassic Park. It won it won 3 Oscars: sound editing, and special effects. All of this makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't even know what it would have been against in 93, but yeah, hands down.
Yeah. We had touched on this before. Like, I didn't realize how new CGI was at the time
Mm-hmm.
that Jurassic Park was being made. There's a quote from one of the, special effects team members. Jurassic Park changed special effects forever, and for better or worse. It really did introduce the digital era.
Hmm.
And since the early 80s, there was this promise that CGI could do this, and it had finally delivered.
Yeah. And all the effects with the dinosaurs are really cool, but there's some other things I've seen behind the scenes, like on a DVD or whatever, where they've also done digital effects for other things. The scene where after they get she plays, Lexi plays, computer sleuth and gets everything back on,
Hmm.
but the raptors are kind of come through the window
Hmm.
and they climb up in the vent. Well, that's the stunt actress who, like, when she goes up and falls,
Hmm.
and she accidentally looked up at the camera. I don't know why they didn't do another take, or that was the best take, or whatever. But
Hmm.
you can see that on the DVD features. I believe it's clearly not the same actress.
Okay.
They put her face on her though, digitally.
Oh, they CGI'd her face onto
They
the
put,
stunt double.
yeah, they put Lex's real face on it, and it's like, wow,
That's
like I would
weird.
never know if someone would have told me, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Wow, weird.
Also, find it kind of funny that like how cool that is, and all the effects with the dinosaurs. Yet when Lex is on the computer, that computer program that saved the day looks like it's from 1963.
Yeah.
What? We have the best CG effects, computer effects we can spend, except for here.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of legacy, somehow, despite all of the characters agreeing this was not a good idea, there are many, many movies that come after this. I really haven't seen any of them. I mean, I saw the first Chris Pratt one, but I don't really remember it. So I'm gonna go through this list of all the sequels. Feel free to add any input because like I have no knowledge really.
I will definitely add some input.
All right, great. So our first sequel is The Lost World, Jurassic Park, came out in 1997. This one was based on another Michael Crichton novel, which was the sequel to the novel. Spielberg came back to direct.
This one still feels pretty like Jurassic Park. It's a little off. I mean, it's hard to remake that same magic even with Spielberg at the helm. I
Hmm.
remember liking this movie. Obviously, haven't watched it as much or as often as the original.
Hmm.
What is sticks out to me about this one is like you get to see new dinosaurs, which is
Hmm.
kind of cool. Something little here and there, but ones you didn't see in the original movie. At one point, they bring the T Rex to the mainland.
Hmm.
I forget why. I'll have to
That's a
rewatch it.
choice.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things alluding to like similarities with Godzilla. Malcolm's the star of the show, which I feel like maybe is what I like and don't like about it at the same time, because I like his character, but he maybe is a better sidekick.
So Jeff Goldblum comes back for that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and he has a daughter.
Okay.
She's like, that's one of the, you bring in the kids, and that's the scary part. Like
Of
the
course, yeah.
the scientists and the hunters and everything with the guns trying to capture dinosaurs, they're bad. F them, let them get eaten up. But now there's a kid involved. Oh no! Like,
Yeah.
I remember liking this one for the most part. I remember for sure seeing this one in theaters. My dad took me and my two friends.
Okay, so Jurassic Park 3, 2001.
Mm-hmm. Don't think I saw this one in theaters. Probably DVD. Might have owned it at one point. Okay, again, new dinosaurs. They bring another bigger, badder, like the new T Rex of the movie.
Hmm.
Well, our good old friend Mrs. T Rex from the first one keeps showing up and saving the day. Like this is her MO. That's the threat, and then the T Rex shows up out of nowhere, like in the first one, and then they can escape, and then some other threat happens, of course.
Ah,
I
okay.
remember the ending sucked for 3 though. So I think the premise is like a boy lost and they got to go save him. He's on this island for whatever reason without his parents, and they like get on a satellite phone like, oh, we're calling the Navy SEALs or whatever. And there's a scene with some raptors again. Of course, one of the characters has an egg, one of their eggs, and like they put it down and they run away, and they like run through the woods, literally like through the woods. It turns into the beach, and all of a sudden, like the National Guard's there, and that's the end of the movie. They're like, "Oh, we're here to save the day. Everyone get on the boat. Bye." Roll credits. I'm like, what the? Like what? It just
Yeah.
ended so abruptly and badly. I haven't really watched it very often because of that. It's like it was okay, and then the ending was like, oh my god, no.
That does sound abrupt. So then we get into kind of like the rebooted version. I'm not
Yeah.
okay. Jurassic World in 2015. This
Wow,
is
10 years ago already. Jesus.
yeah, this is the first of the Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard characters.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first film in history to make over $500 million in one weekend,
Interesting.
which is probably why they kept making them.
Yes. I mean, it's okay. They keep upping the antics here and the ante, and
Hmm.
the dinosaurs literally are getting bigger and bigger. This is what I alluded to earlier when I was like, my dream as a kid as a sequel. One of the scientists, and we get Wu. again. He's like, I think maybe the one character's in all the movies, maybe, at least all the new ones.
Okay.
They like crossbreed the dinosaur with like all other scary dinosaurs plus other scary things, like other normal animals, like speed of a cheetah, although I think like dinosaurs could be faster. I could
Oh.
be a chameleon, and one point like they're in the pen and they can't see, like a dinosaur goes freaking invisible. Like that's the difference between blending in and being invisible. This thing goes like predator mode.
Oh.
Yeah, it's whatever. It's fun enough. I do like that, even though it's like a reboot, not even, but kind of. I don't know. It's like a reboot, resequel type deal because like they're building a new park and it's called Jurassic Park, and they have all these other safety precautions, and they reference the original Jurassic Park and all this stuff. So it's like, okay, I get where they're going here, but why? Like, like it's, I get it for like the movie studio why they're doing it. I understand that, but like in the world of Jurassic Park slash world, like you saw how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have these dinosaurs, and you're going to keep making dinosaurs.
Maybe I need to watch these. Okay. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, 2018.
No.
No.
I guess what you need to know is there's another big scary dinosaur, and it's a clone of something else. And we find out the daughter is a clone of the mom, so it's really the daughter, and it's weird. I don't understand, and it's in the house. Heyman has a silent partner from years ago, and he's the real backer, and he's a bad guy, and he is the one that brought Jurassic World back from the first one. And I don't, yeah, remember. None of the main characters are in it from the first one, even though, like, I think Jeff Goldblum has like a 2-minute courtroom scene saying how bad this idea is.
This is a lot.
Yeah, it was a
Human
mess.
clones now?
Yep. I saw this one on TV specifically. I'm like, I'll watch it, but I'm not paying for it.
Ah, okay. Next is Jurassic World Dominion 2022.
Just recently watched this one, partly for just the podcast. I just watched Jurassic Park, partly because I've never seen it. And then the next one you're going to mention, I like, well, you know what? Screw it. 2 out of 3. Let's go. Better than Fallen Kingdom. Maybe not as good as the 2015 Jurassic World. Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard like live off the grid. They live with the little girl because, like I said, she's like a clone of her mom, who was heir to the throne of Jurassic World or something like that. I'm probably getting all these facts wrong because I don't care enough. And like she is a rebellious teenager, and they're like, you can't go into town because you'll get noticed. You're like the world most famous child now. And she, of course, doesn't listen, and they kidnap her, and they go to the park where they're, I don't remember what kind of sciencey stuff they're doing now. Oh, God, there's locusts everywhere. They bring back Laura Dern because, you know, she's the botanist, and there's like a global problem because these ancient locusts that they brought back for whatever reason are
Like you do.
eating all the crops in the world. So like we might have famine. We got to stop the bad guys from making these locusts because there's another subplot there with the locusts. I forget what's going on. Oh, I think they're like gonna supply the world food. Like they're like really comic book bad. Like we're gonna create locusts to eat all the crops so we can provide the food to everybody, make all the money.
Damn, okay.
Um, despite that, still somehow better than the second movie. I don't know how.
Somehow.
I think because so now like the big thing here is you get more screen time with Jeff Goldblum, Laura Dern, and Sam Neill all come back. Like the
Okay.
ones like now they're doing nostalgia
Oh,
thing and
like,
it worked.
okay. Okay. So the original cast kind of comes back. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, that brings us to this summer Jurassic World Rebirth.
Hopes are not high, but I am intrigued. It the trailer does look fun, more actiony, a little
Mm-hmm.
dangerous, kind of like it feels a little bit like 2 and 3 of the original trilogy,
Okay.
where they're on the park and or they're on the island, not in the park, and they're doing something. I think they've got to get dinosaur cells for something to advance science or cancer studies or something. I don't remember the trailer very well, but it's got Scarlett Johansson in it, and you know, fresh off all the Marvel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of curious because, like, I don't know, the Jurassic World trilogy made a bunch of money, like you said,
Yeah.
and anything with Jurassic in front of it that's related to this film will indeed make money. But also, like, and I'm no famed movie critic, so my opinion isn't, no one cares. But yeah, World 1, 2, and 3. All right, okay, sure, fine. But it just seems like Scarlett Johansson. It seems like surprising that she's in this movie. I feel like she could be doing like serious stuff now that she's no longer doing Marvel stuff. Not saying you can't do like fun things either or make a good paycheck. It threw me off. So that also makes me really curious. Is maybe the script is a little bit better than the
Mm.
past three.
Yeah, I was surprised that she was in it too. But again, like, I had no idea what the storyline of all the previous ones were. I'm personally interested to see her. I like her as an actress. I also like Jonathan Bailey, who was in it. You have probably not seen him in much because he was in Bridgerton and Wicked, and I just have a feeling these are not really your areas of interest.
Hey, if you go back to podcast season 1, I'm a Wizard of Oz fan. I just haven't seen Wicked yet. I didn't have the chance to see it in theater, and I'm just gonna kind of wait till the second one comes out and like do like a double feature, I guess.
Okay. So did Jurassic Park hold up for you?
I would say a resounding yes.
Yeah. I had so much fun revisiting this. Like I said, it had been a little while since I'd seen it. So I didn't quite remember everything, but I just had a great time. I understand why you go to the movies to see blockbusters on the big screen now. Yep.
And this one like is so good from a cinematic point of view that it's
Mm-hmm.
also good on a little screen over and over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah, because like that's the other thing I want to see Jurassic World Rebirth like maybe actually in theaters, because if it's not as good as the other ones or like not as good as the first one, at least I'll have that fun experience like the noise and
Yeah.
all the cool things you get when you go to a theater. And that's why I saw Jurassic World in theaters, but also it's like okay, new premise, very curious. Chris
Mm-hmm.
Pratt was not there not to like. Oh, script, cool.
What is there not to like? Chris Pratt.
That's what I'm saying. What's there not to like? Oh, you don't like Chris Pratt? I think he's funny.
He's the worst Chris.
But that's also fair. Out of the three, yes, but especially like the three in the Marvel universe, sure. But he's still pretty good. I don't know.
I mean, I liked him in Parks and Rec. I could
Oh
do
yeah.
without all his
Oh,
other stuff after that.
Fat Pratt.
Yeah. All right. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Jurassic Park as well as your own favorite summer movies. You can find us on Instagram at Back Through the Lens Pod and on Facebook at Back Through the Lens. You can also email us at backthroughthelenspodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and review. It's the best way to support our show.
If you enjoyed our show today, please give us a like and follow for updates on new and future episodes. Our show is produced by our hosts, Rachel Campbell and myself, Joe Siomick, with additional help and support from Peter Telep of LPV Productions. Peter, Rachel, and I are also the executive producers. Our awesome logo is brought to you by Tom Faraci, and our wonderful theme song is by Matt Tarek. Thanks for listening, and please stay tuned for more trips into our movie watching past on Back Through the Lens.
She got pooped on by a dinosaur.
Dino DNA.